There we go.
Hey,
Hello.
hey, how's it
How
going?
are you?
I'm
Good.
doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well,
I'm
thank you.
trying to organize all this just to, like, I don't get on Facebook, Instagram Live often, so
No, no worries. It's a little tricky to figure out. I just LinkedIn messaged you because I was like, is it working? Is everything
yeah.
good? And we'll just go ahead and start. Hi guys, I'm Olivia Ray Hernandez, and I am with Stephone Coward right now, who is a lead monument figure in all things banking, finance, consulting, and was a co-founder of Bank Black and Cal Rye, and recently just made the Forbes list. So congrats on that. But if you just wanted to, I just want to go in and start and just kind of open up with like, how would you describe yourself to someone you've never met, like to the audience? Like, what, if you want to give a brief intro of yourself?
I it's kind of simple for me. Well, thank you for having me here. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. I just believe in wanting to connect people with resources, tools and resources. So that's I that's something that's very important to me. I've been in the banking industry for the last 17 years, and most recently had the opportunity to try to help build an ecosystem out when it comes to people collaborating together in the space of economic justice and with the Bank Black USA movement and the Bank Black movement. So I'm just a community builder and an ecosystem builder. So that's how I would describe myself.
Awesome for sharing that. Um, I just kind of want to first start off like, what made you really go into the financial literacy route? It's something that you definitely have to have a special personality for. I definitely personally couldn't deal with all those numbers. So, what kind of made you first join that?
Yeah, so when it came to financial literacy, through in my career in banking, we there's something called the Community Reinvestment Act, and you're required to go out into communities to teach them about financial literacy, like balancing checkbooks and what checking the savings and what do those things mean. Early in the career, back in the early 2000s, that made sense because we were still using checkbooks and things of that nature. But we're in a digital age now to where there's a different type of technology that we're using. Everything's mobile. And what something that stuck out to me is that the larger the banks became, the more that they were looking at people as just as a number, and they were having conversations at people and not conversations with people about financial literacy, saying like, oh well, if you have 5,000, like if you have $5,000, you can go ahead and put this into an emergency savings account and do all this. And I'm like, well, if only they have $5,000, right? Like, so there's something we're having conversations at people and not with them. Sometimes financial literacy can be come across very condescending, because you're not you're not setting people up with a game plan of success. You're kind of reminding them of why they're in the financial predicament that they may be in, right? So I wanted to change the way that we talk about financial literacy, and by creating tools and resources that are easily digestible, for people to be able to understand what does banking mean, how can banking be used in a way that it can enhance your own life and the community around you.
Right. Awesome. And then I just wanted to ask, kind of go off of that. How do you think that these like banks can accomplish that? Like, what are some key things to you that they need to like really speak to the community more about?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Banks, the larger banks and many banks in general, they can change the way that they do their underwriting practices, right? First and foremost, a lot of the underwriting practice is not transparent. You have people who are do not get access to lending because maybe they don't meet a particular credit threshold or something like that. They're very conservative and about the way that they do business, which we understand is a financial industry, so you have to be very prudent when it comes to banking. However, with the emergence of fintech companies, Cash App, Square, Venmo, all these other people are coming in here to change the way that banking is being done. And I think that banks really have to become more innovative and lean into technology in a way that makes people's lives easier. We need to change again, like I said, we need to change the way that we do our underwriting practice, but we also need to change the way that what banks invest into. Like, you have banks in the past who have supported private prisons, with their investment portfolio. Like when we had the Dakota Access Pipeline, you had institutions that were supporting that, and that's having a negative environmental impact in our community. You have they're not doing enough to change the predatory lending institution that we have, like these payday loan centers, these check cashing places. They're putting way too many barriers up for people to be able to have a foot in, and we have to change that, because if not, they will be priced out, because you have the emergence of all these fintech companies who are making themselves available right now. People want technology that's going to add value to them, not make it harder for them to bank.
Correct. They want the simplicity of
Yeah.
it. Awesome. And then just like about that, have you seen like with like, I know Bank Black kind of emerged around 2016 with Black Lives Matter movement and everything. What are some, I was really interested in asking you, what are some changes that you've seen with COVID and just the past year? I'm sure things must have just gotten crazy. So I kind of wanted to ask you kind of what some differences you saw between then and now.
So when you're saying the differences, you're kind of saying like what has changed with the banks because of COVID.
Yes.
And
What you've seen with like the whole Bank Black movement, the kind of evolution of it.
you as you know, we started this because it was a Bank Black. You had these people who were fed up about institutions not supporting our community in the way that they should. And during the research, we found out that out of all the minority depository institutions, the ones that were Black owned were the ones that were undercapitalized and undersupported. And so what we wanted to do was to change that by making people more aware of these institutions. So over the years, you've seen people who care about how their money is working, the institutions that house their money, what are they doing to enhance our lives. And so now I'll say this, right? We don't want Black lives people have to die for change to happen, right? Like this martyr system. Like, I don't agree with that at all. I mean, people should not have to die for things to get better, right? So like in the wake of George Floyd, that was like the crescendo to where people were just enough. And if corporations, institutions are not on the side of people and how, trying to make lives better, then we're going to move our money. And so you started seeing this this movement to where corporations were putting out these statements of saying we stand in solidarity of Black community. But one of the things that they had to quickly do, especially with COVID going on, is that they had to make sure that diversity was there. Like, diversity in leadership. You had the Wells Fargo CEO saying that he could not find any Black talent. Like, and that's insane. Like, I know many people in my peer circle and other people who are not, there's a tremendous amount of talent out there. You're just not looking. And so you have these people, because we have an awakening of when it comes to society, that people are moving their money. So now they have to try to realign themselves, because they realize that they're no longer have that level of importance that they once did have, because there's so many more options out there. They had to expand their technology. Like, people are not going inside of the banking centers anymore. So like, how are you making reinvestments into technology to where your mobile banking platforms are doing well? Like, when it comes to how do you make sure that they're safe when it comes to cybersecurity and ransomware? Like, what do you do to make sure that people's money is protected, and you're also helping them get the loans and tools that they need? We finished a project with University of Michigan to where we're talking specifically about the Black banks, how they're lending in communities, and we are mapping out like who are they giving home loans to, the small business loans that are going out, who's getting those. And what we're showing is that these smaller institutions, these Black-owned banks and credit unions, are more likely to lend to people than the larger institutions have done in the past. There's this whole report and study that came out here in Dallas Fort Worth called it was banking under 30. And basically you have these red lines to where if you live in certain communities, people are not lending to you. And not only are they not lending to you, in many cases, and we call these areas banking deserts, right? These are communities that lack traditional banking services or financial institutions, and instead they have predatory lending programs there like payday loans and there's check cashing place. But you have these people who are not in these communities. So you're leaving them to fend for themselves, and that's unacceptable. So what we want to be able to do is like to change the way that that banking is being discussed, right? Because you don't have to bank at these larger institutions, like, you know. And when we tell people that we're not here to tell you where to bank, but if you do choose to leave the larger institution, want to divest from them, you can support these minority and smaller community regional banks that are out there, because they're more likely to be able to give you the service that you're looking for and not come across just as a number.
Right, definitely. I completely agree. And with perspective, I believe the account, they said there's lots of talent in the Black and POC community, which is 100% true. So for them to come out and say that is definitely huge. And it's important to reach out to these communities and really teach them about all these things. Yeah, so then just kind of going off of that, what would your number one goal for that be at the moment? Because I saw on your website, you guys kind of have steps about, you know, if you want to decide to truly bank Black, what you can do to kind of get that started, looking into things around you, posting things for your followers. But what would your guys' like number one goal at the moment be?
Our transparency in banking. What we want to do is provide people with tools and resources so they can make their own informed decisions. I have to make sure that I say this, is that we're not in the business of trading one oppressor for the next. So when it comes to transparency, if these Black-owned banks and credit unions are not doing as much as they could be doing, it's an opportunity for improvement, right? So what we want to do is we want to remove any barrier for somebody who wants to move their money, and by creating these tools and resources. And that's what we've been doing over the last 5 years with our university partnerships, with our own sweat equity that we've put out there to create these tools and resources. We want people to feel comfortable knowing that they can make a move and that their money actually has value, other than just like, you know, making purchases. Like, you're actually doing something, you're making a difference in the community. So that's our biggest priority right now. Disinfecting through sunlight.
Got it. Awesome. So just being transparent and trying to really get to the customers there. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so just like kind of going off of that, how, like, do you feel like the financial kind of world and the systems that it has, do you feel like it needs to, because a lot of people are going like, you know, abolish the police, abolish this system, abolish that system. Do you feel like the financial world really can have a change? Or do you like through time, or do you feel like maybe the whole nother system is just gonna have to come in and
I love that you say that, right? Because it's going to, one way or another, there's going to be change, right? Whether it's fast or if it's over time. You have a group of people like we are who are falling out of love with the capitalistic society we're in, because it has been predatory, right? It has been in a way that like there's this widening gap that, you know, that some people refer to as the racial wealth gap that is out there. But then there's also there's so many things that can be done better, right? And the institutions have been around since the founding of America, and things have not got better for all communities, right? So what we want to see is that, yes, absolutely, within the economic system that we're in, that's why we created Bank Black USA, because the capitalistic system is the one that we have right now. And so while we're here, I want people to know how to be able to understand it in a way that they can empower their lives, create something that they can be able to pass on to generation. But at the same time, we have to be conscious of the fact that there's not one way to go about this. So we have a 501c3 called the Coward Initiative. And what that stands for is the Cooperative Wealth Reinvestment and Empowerment. And what we look is we take a broader approach to where we're talking about what cooperative wealth is, what group economics is, what does reinvestment look like in your community. And because there is a long history of immigrant communities and small communities of working together, cooperating in a way to be able to survive the economic landscape we're in, because it's tough. And like, if you don't already have the resources, it's not an easy task to be able to get through day to day. So how can we create a system that allows us to work together to where we can all rise, as opposed to just, one person? I don't have any problem with a person who's going out there individually making the best of their life. That's fantastic. That's what you chose to do with your life. But I also don't want to see other people who want to but can't, to do well, be left out. So, we want to explore cooperative models. Like we did a project with North Carolina State University to where we're mapping out cooperatives across the country, post-slavery all the way into to the present, of saying that these models do exist. Credit unions are an example of that, right? Credit unions are created by the people together for the people. So you have these tools and resources that are out there, and we just want to be able to bring attention to them, to say that you might not be in love with the system. Well, let's explore what can be built. And that's what some of the topics that we're taking on with student-led work, about saying, like, how can we improve the lives for everybody and not just the few.
Right. What would say some of your most, because you said North Carolina State and Texas, what are some of your most like target areas that you try to hit currently? Or is it all over the place?
You're right. So right now it's any community that resides in a banking desert across the country. Any community that is afflicted with payday loan centers, that we focus on them as well. So we do take a national approach. My co-founders and I, we're all across the country. There's two of them who are in Atlanta. That's Rob and Chris, and then we have Justin, we have John and Latoya who are in NYC, and we have another Christopher, he's in Detroit, and I'm here in Texas. So we're across the country, and so obviously we target the communities that we live in, but we want to target all communities who are potentially afflicted by poor treatment when it comes to the larger financial institutions. So and anybody who reaches out to us who's looking to say that, what can we do in our community, then we do tailored approaches to those communities.
So if, for instance, say I in Southern California needed help and I came to you guys, you would then instruct me and help me walk through that process of.
Yeah, so in 2017, we created an app, the Bank Black USA app, that has a geolocational tool in there that allows you to find the bank in your community in which you reside, if there is one. And there is a thing right now where, when it comes to all the banks, there was over 50 of these Black-owned banks, but in 2001, but in 2021, there's barely 20 of them, right? And that's because they felt like the economic crisis, they're underfunded, undersupported. So what we tried to do is, with the tools and resources that we create, is like, if there is one in your community, we want you to be aware of it. We want you to be aware of the impact that they're having in the community that they serve, through a dashboard that we created at University of Michigan. And then also say that, how can we help you develop, if it's not a bank to your community, how can we help you build a credit union? Now, we started doing work about a year ago, and with San Francisco, their Office of Financial Empowerment, to where there's a community there called the Bayview Hunters Point community in the Oakland area. That's a historically African American community, but however, all the banks had moved out of the area. So it's like, And then you also have an infrastructure issue to where the landlords and the community leaders who own these buildings, they're not updating the community. So what's happening is that you don't have proper internet out there. So you're really recreating. Wanted to help people say, well, how do you create your own credit union? And saying like it takes community engagement, like getting on the same page of like what we're looking for, and doing that type of work. So we do that type of work as well. So if you are looking to bank black, we help you point you to the institutions that are there. We ourselves are not a bank, but we are a tool because we have seen that all the places that you can find about banking, like Betterment, NerdWallet, and all these other institutions, they did not prioritize black banks, in the past. But now with the work that we've been doing over the last 5 years, you've seen people like um, Betterment now starting to talk about these institutions, but you've also seen Netflix move over 2% of their assets, over $50 million in funds, over to a black-owned credit union. You've seen Oracle, PayPal, these institutions starting to bank black. And so what we're saying is that support these institutions the same way that you support the larger ones, right? And we can change the banking landscape, and what we're going to continue to do our part by creating these tools and resources so you can make a more informed decision, whatever that decision may be.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's awesome. I had no clue that Netflix moved over their 2% of their assets, which is huge for
Yeah.
them. So, yeah, that really huge for them. So that is incredible. And then just kind of like my final thing to you, how can people just, I mean, I know social media only goes so far, but how do you get the word out? Like, how do you truly get the word? Financial literacy is like, let's say, for instance, for a college student or for a young adult, it's hard to like get into and learn those things if you're not already learning it. So how would you say, how do you go about that for a young adult?
Right. So I will tell you, you just do the work, right? You build it and it will come. Like there's going to be many times where you get discouraged. I know I have been over the last 5 years saying like, man, like are we adding values in people's lives, right? But if you are committed to what you are doing and you know that you're trying to make a difference, you just keep pushing forward. And then the people who will believe in it and find value in it, it's going to be word of mouth. They're going to be able to share, and that's kind of what happened in our journey. We started creating these tools and resources, and in the beginning many people weren't paying that much attention to it at all, so but over the years of continuously being committed, continuously producing, adding value, and saying that there will be a time to where you need this resources. So we want to make sure that we're here on that day that you do need that information. So, and then putting high quality work out there, people are going to naturally tell somebody else. And then it becomes this avalanche, I guess, a snowball effect that you have. And now we've been featured in major publications. People know about our work. We have over 80,000 people who have come to our website and used our tools and resources. And this is just the beginning. We have so much more that we're going to be doing. But I would also say this. It's like build with the people around you. The people who believe in, who have the values that you share and believe in doing the work that you're doing. Start with them, because that's where I feel like that's grassroots work, right? Building with the people around you, and then you'll see it'll eventually become something larger. There's some days I'm like, wow, I can't believe that this has happened, like, and it's very impressive. So you just kind of continue to build. People will come. They will see it. You'll have many days where you will be discouraged, but you just got to keep the faith and know that you're doing something that is having value and that things will change.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like Perspective said again, build with the people around you. 100% right, because some of your biggest supporters right there. But it was great talking to you. We ended a little early, but I really appreciate everything you had to say. With At Balance Now, we highlight the lack of diversity in, media, TV, government, agencies, just kind of highlighting those issues and different companies. So it's great that we both kind of have similar ties in this. And it was great hearing all about your financial literacy and everything that you've accomplished, which is huge, truly huge.
Well, I really appreciate it. You guys keep up the work because we need that. Not enough people are talking about the diversity out there, especially if we talk about in the financial realm. You only hear about the top big four banks. You're not hearing about all the other minority institutions of all communities that are out here doing the real work that nobody talks about. So can continue to shine a light on that because that is so needed. And we're here to help. Let us know.
Yeah, that's awesome. We hopefully we'll talk soon.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for having.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming, and thank you to everyone watching and supporting us.
Yes, yes. All right. Well, you take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.